Jai Hind students, we are going to start new chapter 3, liberalization, privatization and globalization. So in this chapter we will be studying uh, the condition of India after independence. That is, we had seen that it was what was the condition. It was drastic before independence, and after independence what happened. Our government had full-fledged control over all the sectors of the economy, and we were ruling almost correctly, and we can see that all the sectors of the economy were concentrated by government. So there was no interference there, and we were ruling, we were independent India, and we were quite happy. Then we can see that there arose a crisis. So some crisis that arose after independence, that is end of 1990 and all. We can see that some crisis arose, and we were in debt and poverty, and some drastic situation that we are going to see in this chapter. After that, what happened? That is, after 1990, 1991, what happened, that we are going to see. So you can see the title, New Economic Policy 1991. India approached the, so I had told you that we were in drastic situation, and we were in debt, and India at last had approached for solving this debt problem and financial crisis and all. India approached the World Bank and the IMF for receiving the $7 billion as loan to manage the crisis. For availing the loan, these international agencies expected India to liberalize and open up the economy by removing restrictions on the private sector, reducing the role of the government in many areas, and remove trade restrictions between India and other countries. So, a set of stabilization and structural adjustment measures started from July 1991 in response to the emerging economic crisis is termed as NEP, that is, New Economic Policy was implemented. As a result, we had took two measures, stabilization measure and structural reform measures. So these stabilization measures, these are short-term measures intended to correct the weaknesses that developed in balance of payment by maintaining sufficient foreign exchange reserves and by keeping the rising price under control. B part is structural reform measures. These are long-term measures aimed at improving the efficiency of economy and increasing its international competitiveness by removing the rigidities in various segments of the Indian economy. In order to overcome the economic crisis and accelerate the pace of economic growth, these stabilization measure and structural reform measures were taken. So it was, you can just see, it was on the side of balance of payment to solve the drawbacks that faced in balance of payment, that we were having the foreign reserve with us in ample, but as the crisis came, we have to sell, or we have to give up the reserves that we had, and as a result, what happened, we had only 1 billion rupees for in our account. So as a result, we had to pay the debt balances, and also we had went to the IMF or the World Bank for the financial assistance. So we can just see need for economic reforms and the nature of economic crisis. So why was the need of economic reforms? So that is, first point, a continuous and increasing fiscal deficit. So what's fiscal deficit? It refers to borrowings. You know, you had studied in government budget chapter. So fiscal deficit refers to borrowing of the government on account of excess of its expenditure over revenue during a year. So what we have, we are getting the revenue, the expenditure is high than the revenue. So we had to go for the borrowing, or it is known as what, fiscal deficit. So it is measured as a percentage of GDP. So it's measured as a percentage of GDP. It is not healthy for an economy to have high fiscal deficits, as it retards the growth of the country. If such borrowings are meant to finance non-developmental programs by the government, it might result in inflationary trends in the economy. During 1990-91, the fiscal deficit were as high as 8.4% of GDP. In recent past, there has been a widening gap between the income and expenditure of the government, which led to mounting of fiscal deficit. So we can say that the income from the public sector undertakings was also not very high to meet the growing expenditure, and also developmental programs required the government to increase its revenue to meet the challenges like unemployment, poverty and population explosion. So these and all led to the fiscal deficit. Second is high rate of inflation, especially sharp rise in the prices of essential goods. So India experienced 3 consecutive years of good monsoons and bumper crops till the year 1991. Despite this, the prices of food grains had tended to rise. Inflation, which had begun to accelerate in 1990-91, had reached a peak level of 16.7% in August 1991. Inflation during this period was the result of an increase in money supply to fund the budget deficits in previous years, and high rate of inflation was a cause of concern because price rise was huge in case of several essential commodities. So as we had lots of debt, I had told you, so we had to print new currencies. So as the money supply increased, so what happened? Money supply increased and the demand may be increasing. As a result, what happened? The prices or the cost, the prices will increase. So that led to what? Inflationary situation in our economy. So it was a drastic situation that we had faced. So as the essential commodities prices also went high. Adverse balance of payment. When outflow of foreign exchange is more than inflow of foreign exchange, balance of payments become adverse. You know that. Before 1991, exports were less due to poor quality of domestic goods, and imports were more despite of heavy tariffs and quotas. So this was also one of the situations. So what happened? We have to import more, as we were importing more, as we have our products quality was low, and also our products were not sold out in the foreign countries. So next point is, so we have to pay for that importing goods heavy quotas and all. So it may also lead to the adverse balance of payment. So next, fourth point, fall in foreign exchange reserves. Foreign exchange reserves were extensively used to meet consumption requirement and development projects. Nothing much was done to reduce such profligate spending, nor sufficient attention was given to boost exports. to pay for growing imports, resulting in the adverse balance of payment. So this I had told you, it was due to bad quality of our domestic goods. So we were having less demand for our goods. So we had to pay high tariffs for the imports. Next is poor performance of public sector undertakings. So we can say that the public sector undertakings in India were facing the problem of low productivity and poor rates of return. A huge amount of was invested in their growth and development. Initially, their performance was quite satisfactory, but thereafter, most of these undertakings started recording losses because of their poor performance, and public sector undertakings turned into a liability. So next is sixth point, Gulf crisis leading to high external debts. So there was a Gulf crisis, so that also led our economy to an high external debt. So on account of Iraq war, there was an increase in the prices of crude oil and petroleum products. It widened our trade deficit, and also a decline was there. And also a decline was there in remittance from non-resident Indians after the Gulf War. So this added to our vulnerability. So non-resident were not giving any remittance to our nation. So it also led to a big drawback. Next, 7th point, inefficient management. It was due to lack of finances, defective policies and inefficient administration, which also led to the need for new economic reforms. Okay. So next we can see what is the new economic reforms. What were they? The government initiated a variety of policies also known as element for new economic policy. First one is liberalization, second privatization, and third globalization. So just see the liberalization. It had 4 forms of reforms. That is, under liberalization, 4 forms of reforms are there: industrial sector reforms, financial sector reforms, fiscal or tax reforms, foreign exchange reforms. Liberalization means removal of entry and growth restrictions on private sector. So we can say that the economic reforms taken by the government under liberalization include the following reforms. That is, industrial sector reforms, financial sector reforms, tax reforms, foreign exchange reforms, trade and investment policy reforms. So liberalization was introduced to put up an end to these restrictions and open up various sectors of the economy. So that is known as what? Liberalization. First is industrial sector reform. Various measures under industrial policy reforms include reduction in industrial licensing. So after, according to the new economic policy, industrial licensing was abolished for almost all products except for some industries which are of strategic importance for a nation, like alcohol, cigarette, hazardous chemicals, industrial explosive, aerospace and drugs, and pharmaceuticals. So these products have to have a license. So other products almost had a reduction or exemption from industrial licensing or setup. So that is the first point. Next is decrease in the role of public sector. So it was felt that government cannot control everything, so private sector was allowed to participate in growth object of the country, and now the only industries which are reserved for the public sector, a number of industries reduced from 17 to 3 that are defense equipments, atomic energy generation, and railway transport. Next is de-reservation of production by small-scale industries. So prior to 1991, some goods could be produced only in small-scale industries. But now many goods produced in small scale industry have been de-reserved, and the investment limit on plant and machinery for small scale industries has been increased to rupees 5 crore. So the reservation, that is, this product is to be produced by this sector alone, that type of restriction was removed, that is known as de-reservation. So that this thing has to be produced by this sector alone, that type of thing was removed, that is de-reservation of production. So that is by small scale industries. So next is price determination by market forces. So prior to 1991, there was controls on price fixation by the industries as per the directive policy of government. But now in many industries, the market has been allowed to determine the prices through the demand and supply. So at first the price has to be fixed by directive policy by the government. So now it has been removed by which for policy, the demand and supply forces. So next is import of capital goods. Prior to 1991, there was a restrictions on imports of certain industrial goods, but now there is freedom to import capital goods and technology in order to develop strong infrastructure base of the country. Financial sector includes financial institutions such as commercial banks, investment banks, stock exchange operations, and foreign exchange markets. So various measures under financial reforms include the role of RBI. Prior to 1991, RBI's role was a role of regulator. As a regulator, RBI used to fix the interest rate and structure, and all things has to be seek the permission from RBI for the commercial banks for any financial matters. Now with the new economic policy, one of the major aims of financial sector reforms was to reduce the role of RBI from regulator to facilitator of financial sector. So this means that the financial sector may be allowed to take decision on many financial matters without consulting the RBI. So next is establishment of private sector banks. Prior to 1991, private sector banks were not encouraged as public sector was given more importance in government policies. But the reforms policies had led to the establishment of private sector banks, Indian as well as foreign, which increased the size of competition and provided better services to the consumers. So after the establishment of private sector banks, Indians as well as foreigners were having more consultation with the private sector banks. So next is foreign investment. Prior to 1991, foreign investment in Indian financial market was restricted. With the new reform policy, now foreign investment limit in banks was raised to around 50%. Foreign institutional investors such as merchant bankers, mutual funds and pension funds are now allowed to invest in Indian financial market under strict guidelines by RBI. So after the reforms, prior to the reforms, foreign investment in Indian financial market was restricted. So now it has been removed and foreign investments are also being encouraged. Next is setting up of new branches. So prior to 1991, approval of RBI was required to set up new branches by the banks. Now those banks which fulfill certain conditions are given freedom to set up new branches without the approval of RBI. Next is fiscal tax reforms. Tax reforms are concerned with the reforms in government revenue and government expenditure policies, which are collectively known as fiscal policy. And we have certain points to be noted here. First is reduction in direct taxes. So prior to 1991 and also after that, there was continuous increase in the direct taxes. With economic reforms, it was felt that high rates of income tax were responsible for tax evasion. So therefore, since 1991, there has been a continuous reduction in taxes on individual income. So it is now widely accepted that moderate rates of income taxes encourages savings and vulnerability disclosure in income. So the rate of corporation tax has also been gradually reduced. So next is second point is reforms in indirect taxes. So prior to 1991, there was complexity in imposing indirect taxes and recoveries. So after that implementation of reforms, the taxes levied on commodities have been changed, and this was initiated to facilitate the establishment of common national market of goods for goods and services. So now it has been introduced the GST tax. And next is simplification of tax paying procedure. So prior to 1991, it was very complex procedure to make tax payment in terms of long distance, fixed time period, etc., etc. So now, in order to encourage better compliance on part of taxpayers, many procedures have been simplified. So next is goods and service taxes. So recently the Parliament had passed a law of Goods and Service Tax Act of 2016 to simplify and introduce a unified indirect tax system in India. So this law came into effect from July 2017. So this is expected to generate additional revenue for government, reduction in tax evasion, and create one nation, one tax and one market policy. Next is foreign exchange reforms. So first is devaluation of rupee. So in 1991, India was very badly hit by a balance of payment crisis. So in other words, outflow of foreign exchange was more than inflow of foreign currency. So the reforms in this regard was devaluation of rupee. So devaluation refers to reduction in the value of domestic currency in relation to foreign currency by the government. So this encouraged exports and discouraged imports. So it led to the increase in the inflow of foreign exchanges. So next is market determination of exchange rate. So that is earlier determination of foreign exchange rate was controlled by the government, but now the government allowed market forces to control the foreign exchange rate. So next is trade and investment policy reforms. So dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports. Prior to 1991, India followed a policy of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports. This was done through rigid control over imports and by keeping the tariffs very high. Now liberalization aimed to removal of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports. So next is reduction of tariff rates. So reduction of tariff rates, there were very high tariffs imposed on imports to favor the policy of protection prior to 1991. So now tariffs on imports was reduced to enhance the domestic trade and achieve economic growth. So next is removal of a licensing procedure for imports. So prior to 1991, there were huge restrictions to obtain import license in order to keep strict control over imports. Now import licensing was abolished except in case of hazardous and environmentally sensitive industries. Next is removal of export duties. Earlier there were heavy export duties imposed to encourage domestic production for domestic demand only. Now export duties have been removed to increase the competitive position of Indian goods in the international market.